Dennis Eckersley had perhaps the most depressing life an MLB player had ever gone through. I mean, imagine you're a successful MLB star pitching for some of the league's best teams. But during it all, your wife cheats on you, divorces you, and marries someone who is your teammate, your best friend. And on top of it, you're drinking nearly every single day. You're pitching while you're drunk and hungover, which, according to him, made him less focused and diminished his ability to pitch. On top of all of this, drama followed him on every single team he was ever on. Some teams moved on due to personal issues, and others was due to performance. He was losing his self-esteem in the midst of self-destruction. It felt like he couldn't do a thing about it. But yet, somehow, he became one of the best pitchers of all time. He's a 6-time All-Star, former MVP. But I wish that I could say his life was once problem-free. The truth is that his deep mental battle began as a teenager. However, there was one way to alleviate his mind from everything, and that was, of course, baseball. He lived in California as an athletics fan, and he was obsessed with his favorite player.
I saw that big leg kick.
Dennis Eckersley famously adopted his leg kick and took off as a pitcher because of it. He used a screwball and a fastball, plus he threw up to 90 miles an hour by his senior year. His main problem was that he started drinking at the young age of 17. And I mean, he frequently got flat out drunk with his older brother. Despite it, it really wasn't going to affect him throughout the next few years. In 1973 specifically, his life changed forever. Off the field, he married his wife Denise, and on the field, was drafted by the Cleveland Indians. He made his MLB debut a few years later as one of the best young pitchers in all of baseball. Throughout his first 9 appearances, he was only a reliever who came in for just a few innings.
I came out of the bullpen right away. He was just trying to sort of piecemeal the big leagues to me. So I was lucky to not give up any runs.
In his 11th appearance specifically, he was about to get his first opportunity as a starting pitcher. He dominated his childhood team, going 9 innings, with only 3 hits allowed and no earned runs. And it wasn't just once. 5 days later, he went 9 innings against them again. Out of his first 24 starts, he on average went 7 innings into games, which is substantially higher than the current MLB average. Plus, his rookie ERA was all the way down to 2.60, which, for reference, beat out MLB legend Nolan Ryan. Eckersley was seriously special and won the American League Rookie of the Year because of it. And just like any exciting young player, fans absolutely loved Dennis Eckersley. He was very possibly a generational superstar. Now, his team was a disaster. In fact, the Indians hadn't been competitive in over 2 decades. Going into 1977, he was hoping to help his team finally become winners.
In my career, every time I used to go to the mound, I wanted to throw a no-hitter. As soon as the guy would get a hit, I'd go, ah!
So, he delivered the best start of his early career.
It was Memorial Day. We got 1 run in the first, and I had to make that thing hold up. And I was dealing that night. I really was.
As the 9th inning approached, he was about to finish his first career no-hitter.
Strike 3, it's a no-hitter. How about that?
Eck had finally done it and was on top of the world. However, it likely wasn't going to last for very long, as things were about to completely fall off the rails. When he didn't expect it, he heard the worst news of his career. He was being traded.
My reaction was, how can you trade me? How do you trade me? You know, you gotta be kidding me. It's the first time in your life where you say, you are replaceable.
My wife, Denise, and I were not getting along. So when I got traded, I called home, and I remember she said she didn't love me anymore. I was like, whoa. I was crushed. It was one of the most devastating times in my entire life. I kept wondering, back then, like, what was it? Is it somebody else?
What he didn't know was that it happened to be his best friend, Rick Manning. He was his teammate. He was on the Indians.
Rick Manning was my best friend. He played center field. And my wife and I, we were like, the 3 amigos, man. We were tight. And my wife fell in love with him. And She told me she wasn't loving me anymore. It was devastating.
Just like that, he had his team and his wife move on from him, while also losing his former best friend. But even though he was heartbroken, he treated them both with full respect in honor of his daughter.
He was the stepfather of my daughter. She had no idea. She thought, I have two dads, you know? And so that was what was important.
I could look at him right now and he would be the exact same to me as we were back in 1972.
In hindsight, the trade to a new city was something that he 100% needed.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know what would have happened if they didn't trade me.
As every year went by, his alcoholism was spiraling out of control. But on the field, he was preparing to do big things. Boston was his new home, a team that was always trying to make it into the World Series. And to put it simply, he was lights out in his first 2 years with the Boston Red Sox.
When I went to the mound, I was hungry. I wanted outs.
He broke his personal records, winning more games than he ever had before, while also pitching with the same excellent ERA in back-to-back years. Yet, he didn't know that everything was about to get a lot harder in his career. As an early-stage alcoholic, everything was hard, but he did remarry, finding himself a new wife. What wasn't so great is that his arm was heavily fatigued as he entered the 1980s. His fastball velocity completely dropped, and the statistical data backed up the fact that he was riddled by the fatigue.
That's going to happen because I'm a sidearm slinging guy, and I had thrown a ton of innings.
He saw his hits per 9 and home runs allowed per 9 innings increase substantially, which only meant that he was getting a lot worse and it was happening fast.
Lost my gas, you know?
After retooling his mechanics and focusing on locating his pitches over throwing hard, his numbers soared. He threw way more innings, pitched way more strikeouts, while also significantly reducing the amount of walks he let up. It led for him being 26% better than the average big leaguer. Unfortunately, it wasn't going to last for very long. During the early 1980s, his drinking was problematic, and teammates were seeing it firsthand. And he didn't even realize how big of an issue it was. He at least convinced himself that it wasn't. In the Red Sox 1983 spring training, he'd been hearing his family say for years that his brother was an alcoholic. And when he saw him that same year, he was a mess, sleeping outside, and according to Dennis, was a hobo. It was after seeing that he said, "Man, I'm not that bad, I thought, but an alcoholic doesn't need to be that bad." While he sees that in hindsight, he didn't realize it at the time, and he wasn't going to anytime soon.
He is comfortable in his own skin, but when you talk to him and you meet him, you realize that took a lifetime to get there.
After a horrendous 1983 season, he was still awful with the Red Sox in 1984. They were done putting up with it, and they got rid of him. But he was deeply heartbroken regarding the news. According to a Chicago news outlet, Eckersley said, "I want to go out there and show I can pitch." He broke down, cried, and then said, "I think my life needed a change. I remember the last time I got traded from Cleveland, I got a lot of juice." He was far improved in his new city. In fact, it was the best that he had looked in years. The transition to the Cubs was amazing, but the transition to the city of Chicago is a completely different story.
That's when the drinking was starting to get out of hand. Day games, go out at night. It's so conducive to doing that because I'm starting pitching once every 5 days, you know, just mellow out the night before you pitch.
As he adjusted to a new Chicago lifestyle, his wife would often stay in the New England-Boston area. As I'll get into in a moment, his alcoholism was getting really bad, but in his mind, it didn't matter because he was really good. He put up his best numbers since the late 70s, putting his team in a playoff spot. They won an NL-leading 96 games, 10 of which were because of him. He also finished the season off very strong as they were entering the playoffs. Chicago actually won their first playoff game in over 40 years. But in Eckersley's head, he was constantly battling his mind.
Knew that I had a problem. You know what I mean? You know. I've seen the worst of it. You know, my brother, he couldn't control it and found himself in jail. I mean, it's just awful. Life destroyed. It happens if you don't stop. You know, it's going to get you. It's slow death.
In the playoffs, Cubs fans wanted to win more than anyone. They were winning the series up 2-0 and only needed to win one more. With Eck pitching, it seemed inevitable this series would go their way. But then, everyone started to tee off of it.
Left center. There's a base hit center field. Here comes Timberland around third to near. Good arm, throw off. Cut off by Durham. Back to Sandberg. They get him, but the run score. And it's 3-1 San Diego.
He lost them this game, and many losses followed, eliminating them from the playoffs. Due to mental struggles from things like this, he tuned up the drinking. And despite a solid 1985 with numbers as low as a 3.05 ERA, Eckersley was about to hit rock bottom. While hanging out with his family, he got hammered drunk to the point he was angry and obnoxious. It was the first time that his daughter Mandy saw him drunk, so she recorded a lot of it. She showed him the footage the next morning. He was embarrassed, and he checked himself into a rehab facility immediately.
Intoxicated like that was new and uncomfortable, and it just scared me a little bit.
He later admitted that he should have gotten help much earlier, but thought that he could do it alone. Which goes to show you, it is a very serious disease, and if you are dealing with it, go contact help. To this day, this is known as the best save of his career, as it literally saved his life. Yes, it had taken a toll on his performance, but he was about to seek redemption in every aspect of life.
I go to spring training and I am brand new and nobody knows.
What Eckersley didn't know was that he was about to be sent over into Oakland. He said himself, "I was scared, but I turned to Alcoholics Anonymous and went into rehab for a while. So when I went into Oakland, I was clean and sober," which is exactly what they needed from him, considering that they were about to remove the title of being a starting pitcher and transition him into a bullpen pitcher. With his tendency to play at his best in big moments, it was a role that they knew he would excel in. On the outside, he seemed excited, but what he told his brother-in-law is that he only wanted to be a starter.
Once I go into the bullpen, I'll never come out.
Early in the season, he assumed the closing role, and the rest was history. The A's were one of the premier teams in baseball by 1987, winning over 100 games. The team was filled with insane talent, from a 23-year-old Jose Canseco to a 24-year-old Mark McGwire, and yes, of course, a 33-year-old Dennis Eckersley. He led baseball with 45 saves and accumulated a top 5 ERA among closers. It's safe to say that the league was on notice. Keep in mind, this came only a few months after refinding his purpose in life. Now, he had a chance to dominate the postseason with his newest team. He found himself in the ALCS against Boston, his former team that had ranked 4th in the AL offensively with some of MLB's best hitters. And in the 4 games that same series, he closed out every single one of them, leaving the series in applause. Dennis won the ALCS MVP against them as a closer, something that nobody would have expected, something that he wouldn't even have expected just a year ago.
Do you ever think this would happen to me last year?
It advanced them onto the biggest stage, the World Series. It was Dennis's first attempt at a championship against the LA Dodgers. Already in Game 1, they were calling on him with a 1-run lead in the 9th inning.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Toughest nights of my life. Walking off that field? Are you kidding me? 50,000 people going crazy?
It was the worst moment of his entire career.
And I got to live with it. So, hey, let's start tomorrow.
This led the path for a Dodgers World Series victory in 5 games. He was hurt, but attempted to heal in the offseason. Mentally, he reset and even told the media about his personal battle with alcohol and that this era of his career was completely new. But the reason he told the media about it all was tragic. He was testifying in a court case for his brother, and he was accused of, let's just say, a lot of unbelievable things. When he returned in 1989, he looked better than he ever had before. He had a career-low ERA as a closer, and the A's core was staying intact with some of the best players in baseball. They were even able to make it into another ALCS in this season. And the man who punched them back into the World Series was Dennis Eckersley. And who better to face than his other childhood team, the San Francisco Giants? A chaotic series where they immediately jumped up 2-0. And as anticipation was building for Game 3,
So the Oakland A's take.
I went, earthquake!
police car came onto the field. The game was announced as canceled, and the World Series was postponed for 10 days. 67 people were killed and 3,000 others were injured. The fact they were able to play baseball days later is nothing short of a miracle.
The A's are the world champions.
Dennis was a world champion. It was the best moment of his career, and he experienced it in his hometown. He could not have asked for his pitching to have been any better. So now, he was a World Series champion. It seemed like he had unlocked another part of himself. 1990, he was the best relief pitcher in baseball. He considers it his greatest season ever. He pitched a career high in games and a career low in ERA at .61, a number that has only been reached 3 times since then. But the craziest, the worst part is he did not win a single major award despite a generational season. One where he was unhittable from start to finish as a 35-year-old pitcher. Instead, they gave him an MVP and the Cy Young Award in 1992 when he was good, but not nearly as elite. Actually, the only 100% true similarity is that both seasons featured heartbreak. From a World Series loss in 1990 to a blown playoff game by Eckersley in 1992.
And I gave him a good pitch he could drive out, and he smoked it.
Despite the loss, his accolades in 1992 hold up as the only relief pitcher to win the MVP in the last 30 years. It was truly amazing, but after this season, he was never the same. He continued playing with the Athletics before being traded to the Cardinals in 1996. He had a slight resurgence with the best season since 1992 in consecutive years. His time in St. Louis was good, but he chose to return back to Boston in 1998, a city that he called home for nearly 7 years earlier in his career. He played there for 1 more year before retiring as the oldest player in the league at 43 years old. He reached many milestones, but the best is the fact that he's the first MLB player to win 100 games, save 100 games, and appear in 100 games.
I always dreamed of being a Major League Baseball player, but I never dreamed of being in the Hall of Fame.
All due respect, I mean, I got to face Mario Rivera and Trevor Hoffman, those guys. It's like, but there was something different about that.
As he reminisced about his entire career, he couldn't help but thank the people who got him there. But more than anything, recognize that nothing came easy.
I relied on raw talent and innate ability to get through. No one knew then, but I was fighting a major battle with alcohol. And I knew I had come to the crossroads in my life. With the grace of God, I got sober, and I saved my life.
If you want to watch more content from my channel, check out my Tim Wakefield video by clicking the video on your screen right now.